With the international break almost over, we are already looking ahead to a fantastic selection of Premier League games at the weekend. But there is none other to discuss today than, of course, Liverpool versus Man United on Sunday. The age-old rivalry is renewed with arguably a lot of pressure on both managers going into this fixture. So today we're going to break it down. We're going to analyse the tactics, who needs to win more, and who we think is going to come up on top in this huge fixture. Let's get cracking. Jamie, we'll come to you first. Liverpool United, where's your head at? Who needs this win more? Because both managers are feeling it at the moment.
Yeah, obviously Liverpool coming off three defeats in a row. United still under Amorim haven't won two games in a row, which is absolutely mental sort of stats on both teams. Um, it's a weird one because I think everyone's gonna still have Liverpool as favourites, despite the three losses. You're still gonna have Liverpool as favourites. They're at Anfield, so I think this game would have been seen as a closer matchup if it was at Old Trafford, just because United do seem to get up for these bigger games. They perform better. Whether they get the result or not, it's a different matter. Just look at sort of the Arsenal game, first game of the season. Performance was fairly good, but they end up losing 1-0. So they do get up for these games, which is a positive for United fans going into it because let's be honest, they've had some torrid times against Liverpool in recent years, and it's sort of not looking that great as it is. So it's a tough one to call, I think, overall. Whereas if you asked me sort of, 2 weeks ago, I'd be like, there's only one team winning this, and it's Liverpool. So I think the form's changed, but I said it before in our last video. I think the international breaks come at a good time. Liverpool just can reset, and there's nothing big. There's sort of like this is the biggest game probably of their season, like the fixture they look most forward to, if not Everton. But it's that sort of moment. It's a huge moment for them, and I think that's where Liverpool fans should be up for it. Well, Liverpool fans will be sorry, the players should be up for it, getting over their poor performances this season.
Yeah, I think, well, we said who needs it more. I think Liverpool needed to bounce back for the title race. But I mean, what this win could do for Amorim, we know, we look at the record. I think, what's changed since over this international break is obviously what Ratcliffe has come out and said. Reese, how important do you think this match is for Amorim?
Yeah, I mean, like any Man U Liverpool fixture, it's massive for any coach. As we know, Amorim got off to a good start early on in his when he first joined Liverpool, beating United quite comfortably. But of course, that was under Ten Hag. Since then, it ended up being a 2-2 draw at Anfield, which of course, as we know to Liverpool, their Achilles heel is a 3-4-2-1. As we see against Crystal Palace, we're going to see it no doubt at Anfield. Both managers need consistency, they need stability, they need to get back on track. United is a lot worse situation than Liverpool's, as we know. However, Liverpool losing two in a row in the league, three overall, they need to bounce back and they need to bounce back quick. Um, for Amorim, a lot has been made, about this formation, about these tactics, about this style of play, about the performance of his players. And then, of course, he's been given the dreaded vote of confidence from Jim Ratcliffe the other week saying he'll give him 3 years. So all of this is bubbling here for Amorim. He has to get a result. United turn up in the big games, with the exception of City away. They turn up. And this is a great opportunity for them. Great opportunity for both coaches to sort themselves out because I think you don't want to be playing, it sounds silly, you probably don't want to be playing in the Palaces at home at this stage. You want to be playing one of your great rivals in order to get yourselves back to it. But for Amorim, we know long term, with the way the team have played over the past year, that a defeat here isn't going to harm him as much, like unlike it would for Slot. But Amorim also needs to back up what Jim Ratcliffe has been saying. So, it's a real tough game for both coaches. But I think to flip your question, I think it means a lot more to Slot at this moment in time.
Can we just quickly
Yeah.
say how mental is that to say I'm going to give the manager 3 years? Because it shouldn't be a foregone conclusion you're getting 3 years. You've got to earn your right to it, and it's not like he has. It's sort of like if you said, "Oh, Slot's going to get another 2 more years," that's fine because he's just won the Premier League. Amorim's done nothing. He's got one of the worst performances in the Premier League managers, like of all
Well,
time, kind of thing. So I think it's mental to say he's going to get 3 years. I know they don't want to pay out for his sort of contract early, but if his performances don't improve and the results more so, he has to be sacked if they don't improve. So I think it's stupid. Like the comment's stupid. I understand you've got to back you want to back your manager, seems to be backing your manager, but to say 3 years, I just think it's such a weird comment to make.
I mean, I think that's a bit harsh. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe knows what he's doing. He was right to back the coach. Um, Rome wasn't built in a day. Ferguson didn't build Man United in a day. And, it's not going to take Amorim a day to do it. Amorim's probably in his sort of Arteta stage at the moment with his first full season in charge. A lot of teething problems. Um, but of course, if the results continue as they are, I find it highly unlikely that Amorim will survive those 3 years. But he's right to back him, and it's a good psychological boost ahead of the weekend, I think.
Well, you can argue it both ways because I agree with you, Jamie. I think it's a ridiculous statement to say he's basically guaranteed 3 years when, as you said, he's got one of the well, he's got basically the lowest win percentage in United managerial history. And if we just look quickly at the games they've won in the Premier League, this is literally their only Premier League wins in the last 8 months. Ipswich, who have been relegated, Leicester, who have been relegated, Sunderland, who have just come up, Burnley, who have just come up. The only other two wins, which obviously reflects badly on Aston Villa, is Aston Villa. But in both of those games against the bigger sides, those teams had 10 men. So when you paint the picture of going, you've beaten Ipswich, Leicester, and Sunderland and Burnley in 8 months, you can flip it whichever way you want. That is a disgrace. So I'm somewhere in the mid. Well, I say disgrace. I'm somewhere in the middle, maybe not. But I get why Ratcliffe has said the comments he said. He's used Arteta as an example. With all due respect to Arteta, as much as he's improved the side, he hasn't won anything other than the FA Cup and sorry, two Community Shields, which is apparently a flex. So if that is the benchmark, uh, I'd almost be concerned as a United fan that you're going to accept complete and utter mediocrity for 3 years, and your benchmark is as a successful tenure is winning one FA Cup and nothing else. So I'd be more worried at what Ratcliffe said than anything about about as a Man United fan. You can argue it takes the pressure off Amorim, maybe takes the pressure off people being asked every week, are you worried about your job? So I do see the benefits of some of the comments there. But at the end of the day, Reece, I think what you said around who needs it more is correct because if Liverpool win this game, nothing changes for Amorim. United is still bad. Amorim's still under pressure. Nothing changes. If Liverpool don't win this game, there's going to be a whole big narrative change around Slot, Liverpool's title race, everything. So I absolutely 100% think the pressure's on Liverpool personally.
Yeah, I do agree. Slot is the pressure's more on Slot, especially in being at home. And the stat I saw, I haven't fact checked it. It was on X, but it was Liverpool haven't lost 4 games in a row for 38 years. So to come with a stat to ruin that stat is a terrible sort of achievement, really, in it. And it ending at like the fourth one being United at home is kind of like worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible stat for the champions of England, as simple as that. And it's a terrible stat considering the teams they've played against, where, you'd expect Liverpool to probably have won all of those games. Um, but that's not disregarding the achievements of those sides. They got their wins, and it's as simple as that. But that's a concern, and you add in. I know everyone's mentioned it from our podcast to the ex pros, etc., of the money they've spent. This is why there's more pressure on Slot. Um, the money aspect of it, there's not a balance in the side at the moment. So Slot's got a big decision to make on who he's going to embed into his side and who he's going to play. This formation that United play is not to Liverpool's advantage at all. So how are they going to do it? Is Wirtz going to come in and try and unlock things? Are they going to try and Chiesa? I can't remember if he's injured or not, but is he going to try? Because he's been doing quite well. Then you've got Salah in there. You've got underperforming Kerkez and Frimpong. Will they be? Can United exploit those in that formation? We don't know. We don't know what United team are going to turn up. So a lot to ponder for Slot, and that's why I think the pressure's on him. Because United could go and lose 4-0. It's still going to be the same story about Amorim. But if they lose, say, I don't know, if Liverpool lose to them 1-0, think about all the questions that are going to be asked of Liverpool there. It's not going to be about how good United were. It's all about what's going on at Liverpool, as we discussed in our podcast last week. So really a lot to ponder for Slot. And this is the first time he's felt pressure of this magnitude. And some coaches never claw it back when they get into that rut. I believe he's more than capable, but it's going to take some big decisions. And he's got to make those big decisions sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and let's talk about momentum then in terms of going into this fixture. I know momentum's a bit of a weird thing to say. Arguably, there's a loss of momentum with an international break, but in terms of form, we obviously know Liverpool have lost the last three in a row. What I will say is all three of those games have been away. So if we go a little bit and dive a bit deeper into their more recent home fixtures, you look at Southampton in the Carabao Cup, you look at Everton, you look at Madrid, Atletico Madrid. Again, all marginal, oh, excuse me if I can speak, all marginal victories by one goal. Again, obviously the Ekitike situation in the Carabao Cup was funny, but they weren't convincing again in either, really any of those games. They had a great start against Atletico Madrid, but then just collapsed. Llorente, once again, he loves Anfield. But again, looking at those three games, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence. If I'm a Liverpool fan looking at those games going, yeah, they weren't great in any of those games. So I do still think there is weakness for Man United to go at, even as bad as they've been. And if, as you guys said, if they do tend to turn up sometimes for these games. So I don't think it's an absolute. Yeah, I wouldn't be absolutely surprised if United did turn up and could somehow get a result.
I
Yeah,
think this is
it's a weird one.
why I sort of said I think the international point came at a good time for Liverpool because the performances haven't been great. And I think with what Reece you're saying, with Slot under pressure properly for the first time of sort of big magnitude, he's got too good of a squad for it not to sort of turn around in certain ways. Doesn't mean he's going to turn it around and win the league, but he's still going to turn it around and I still think they're easily going to get top four. So I think in some aspects he will turn it around. Like Liverpool fans, I don't think are expecting to go back to back. They're favourites for it, or were favourites, who depend on who you ask. But it's. I think he still will turn it around because there's too many good players there, and at some point it may not even be down to the manager why he will turn it around. It could just be the fact that they've got very good players will do it. In terms of the momentum for this game, though, sometimes these games, sort of like Liverpool fans and United fans will go, this is basically their derby. And sometimes form doesn't matter. And it's sort of one of them games where Liverpool fans will be up for it. United fans who are travelling sort of in the away end will be up for it. And I think you'll get a very good atmosphere, and I think that feeds more into Liverpool's hands. I think at Anfield, the atmosphere being higher benefits them. And so that's where I kind of see sort of some momentum. And I think you've got to remember Liverpool sitting second in the league, and we're saying they haven't played very well.
Thing is, though, on that point around Derby, it was the same with Everton. And they were still shit. Obviously, I know they got the wins. The Liverpool fans will say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. But even with the atmosphere in that game, they were shaky.
No, but
And Everton did really well.
they were 2-0 up, weren't they? It looked actually they were going to be comfortable. Then Everton
Mm.
Everton got their goal back, and that's where they sort of went, oh, we have conceded two after being 2-0 up in several games this season. So I think there was a bit of nervousness around that, and they were like, we don't want to be doing that to Everton. So that's where I think I understand where you're coming from on that, but I think it's more because it looked more comfortable than what it probably should have been. It was looking comfortable. They didn't need to rely on that. And I think if Liverpool score sort of two, let's say they score too early, it's definitely not out of the sort of context of the game, really, for them to go and score too early. The atmosphere doesn't need to be as hyped. It's sort of, we're going to win the game. The sort of act of fans will be, we're going to win the game. So the atmosphere won't be as high. And then if United score, it will be a bit of nervousness. But look, you can when it gets to the nervousness part, I think that's when it's actually against you because you'll feed into that nervousness. I think, and you've seen it with several teams. They're sort of like, are we going to throw away this lead? And quite often you do. So I think with that, but look, I think Liverpool's still way too strong for this United team.
Mm.
I'd be surprised if you get Liverpool losing four and United winning two in a row. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I mean, like even though I disagree with you, Jamie, that form goes out the window in a derby, there is a real big element of unpredictability about this game. I feel that Liverpool can't win in many aspects because a lot of us have said, wow, hallmark of champions to get those late goals, to get them over the line. But then we've all flipped it and gone, well, you've been shaky for the last few weeks. These two defeats two league defeats are an example of that. You're struggling to claw back. You were ropey against Everton, for example. So they can't win either way. However, this game against Man is a chance for them to maybe just be a bit more conservative in their approach and maybe just try and get a result over the line to give the confidence. And one way to do that is by keeping a clean sheet. United haven't won at Anfield since 2016 when Wayne Rooney scored, and I don't even think they've looked like close to even winning at Anfield in those times. They've had a few nil-nils. They've had, a 7-0 hammer in, a 4-0 hammer in. So this has been a real horrible place for them to go. But on the other hand, this is the best time for them to go there and get a result. Ideally, if they were playing there later on in the season, you might fancy him a little bit more. But, they've got a chance to go there. They've got the players to go there. Again, we know United aren't going to change their system, but that's because that's their strength. We know United are capable of winning a penalty there and Fernandes tucking it away. I know Brentford away told otherwise, but we know that he's more than capable of, they're going there and snatching a win too. However, if Liverpool do go one up, will United come back? That's the concern. I think United probably need to score first in order to have the best chance of getting something from the game. Um, it is a really hard one to call this one. It is hard because the pressure, not just the pressure, but the form on the teams going into this. I've not remembered a Man U Liverpool game, or sorry, Liverpool Man U game going into it where both teams are at the moment so unpredictable. It's you just don't know what's going to go on, and that's the exciting thing of this game. I mean, all in now, it's going to be a boring 0-0, but this has the opportunity to really put a flag down for both sides for how the rest of the season is going to go for them. It's as simple as that. You can say it's early doors, and we know that United there's less pressure on them, etc. But United will celebrate the possibility of two back-to-back wins, which is shocking for the most successful team in this country. If anyone would have told me that we'd be sitting here saying that United still haven't got a back-to-back league win, I'd, you would have laughed at their face and God knows what else. But there's a chance for them to do that. They get that monkey off their back, that could set them in good stead, and that poor social influencer might be able to finally get his hair cut. Poor guy. Fair play to him though.
It'd be
But
sort of
Liverpool,
law if they beat Liverpool. They'll get to like the fourth game, need to win the fifth, and and then they lose.
Oh yeah, there's
He's
It's a
screwed.
long way
He
to
is
go still.
absolutely screwed. He's going to be setting Guinness World Records for like the longest hair and stuff. It's not happening.
there's no doubt about that. I mean, I think the fifth game would be Everton at home, by the way, if they do get there, but they'd have to play Forest and Spurs away in that time. Um, but I just think it's such a fascinating game. I know I'm rambling on, but Liverpool, they can't afford to let United get that monkey off their back, and they need to get the monkey off their back and get back to winning ways.
All right, let's give our score predictions for the game. I'll kick things off and I'll make it a really specific prediction. I think Liverpool will go 2-0 up, as always. Then I think United will nick a goal back and it'll be a bit sweaty. They'll probably miss a sitter. And then I reckon Liverpool will get a late counter and score again. So I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool.
I'm going 3-0 Liverpool. I think it'll be their best performance of the season, and United won't be able to sort of match them at all. The only way I see Liverpool scoring, United scoring, is a penalty or sort of a free kick. I really don't know how they're going to do it in open play. That's why I think Liverpool will get a clean sheet.
Mm. As always, these games get really, really hyped up and they end up being a nil-nil because the supposed best league in the world is apparently the best league in the world, but that proves otherwise. However, I think Liverpool are going to win 1-0. I think they'll get the goal and they're going to sit back and hold it. I think United will press and press and press. Like as they will, they'll try and try and I just think Liverpool will hold their nerve and get that result. But Harry Maguire is more than capable of scoring a winner for them at Anfield. It's that kind of game. But I'll stick with my guns. I'll say Liverpool 1-0.
All right, there you have it. We've had our predictions. Now we want to hear from you. Head to the comment section below and let us know your score predictions for the game. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.